good evening again. Now it's the official start. All right, so we are now live. So a little housekeeping, okay? If there's an emergency, there's an exit there and there's an exit down there. Restroom is right through that door as well. I think that's about it. If I'm running, run past me and then you'll be safe, okay? The other thing we're gonna do tonight is we have Marilyn and Sally have pieces of paper with pens. If you don't want to come up and ask your question, you can write it down, fold it up, give it to them, they'll give it to me, and I'll read it. Okay? Is that good for everybody? So I think what we're going to do tonight, we've done this several times now, so we're pretty good at it. Not perfect. So we're going to have the unopposed person that's here tonight, Jim Ryan. He's going to come up first. He'll have 2 minutes to give his spiel, and then if you want to ask him questions, please feel free to come to the microphone and ask, or as I said, write your question down. Then we'll proceed with the school board. We have 2 candidates here from the school board, and then we'll go to selectmen. And I think, if I didn't miss anybody, that should be it for tonight. So, does that sound good to everybody? All right, then let's rock and roll.
Let's do it.
All right, so Jim is running for planning board. So Jim, if you want to take a seat and take a microphone, okay? Or you can take, you don't need to sit, you can have, yeah, but you need the microphone, okay?
Gotcha. Okay, we got it. Good evening, folks. My name is Jim Ryan. I am running for a 1-year planning board position. I'm running unopposed, but I thought the polite thing to do would be to come here and so that people can put a face to the name going forward. And I stepped into this spot because there was a vacancy, and so it was a walk-in, so I didn't have to get voted in. So I've been in Newton for 11 years. As soon as I got here, I started serving the town. I love this town. It's so cool, so quaint, so New Englandy. I was only here for like a month, and they asked for volunteers to do some kind of building thing. And as I was a builder, I thought we were going to be doing like a bond raising. So I signed up, and then I found out I was going to be on a committee. I was like, well, I don't think I'm the person for a committee. I thought we were going to be banging nails. And they said, no, you're an outsider. It's a good perspective. You're a builder. It's a good perspective. So it was assessing town buildings and all the town buildings. So I was on that committee, served on that. And that kind of morphed into the fire station design committee. And I was on that right through to fruition. In fact, by the time that passed, I was actually on the fire department. Wasn't a plan, just ended up that way. So I served 9 years on the fire department as a fire officer, as an EMT. I'm in this town, I think, for the duration. I wanted to serve the town in a better capacity. I'm on the 275 celebration committee, but that'll be over next fall. So I just wanted people to know who I was in the event that I ran for again in a 3-year slot. I've already been on the planning board for almost 4 months. I like how they all interact with the town. I like how everything comes before us. It's very clinical. You don't make emotional decisions. It has nothing to do with how you feel. It's all clinical. Is it big enough? Is it legal enough? Does it meet code? Other than that, you can't tell people, no, you can't build there because you're going to make them mad, you're going to make them mad, or yes, you can build there because you're not making anyone mad. It's all very clinical decision making. That can be good, it can be bad if you're the person next door and somebody's building, but that's what you got. So anyway, any questions?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you help me?
Okay, so we have Heather and Kevin, right? Yes. Yeah. So if you two would maybe take a seat, and we'll get you set up here. I'm just going to move this over here. Yep. There you go. So if you can, you're gonna have to use the lapel mic, okay? So if you want to, like, introduce yourselves, and then your 2-minute spiel, and then if they have questions, they'll ask. So why don't we just start right here, Heather?
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so for those that don't know me, I'm Heather Ingham. I am running for the current seat that I've been sitting on for the last 3 years for school board. During my past 3 years, I've learned a tremendous amount regarding school policy, curriculum, culture, and community needs. I've worked to open the lines of communication, create opportunities for community members to have their voices heard. I've supported our teachers, our staff, our administrators by implementing policies, curriculum, programming, and community events. I supported the district in increasing curriculum and rigor into our academics to enhance what we do well and correct areas for improvement such as our reading and math scores. For many of you know, our reading and math scores at our district have been extremely low, and we're looking to increase those dramatically by some of the implementation that we've done. I've supported opportunities for fiscal growth such as negotiating with the Seacoast Classical Academy to rent our space at the former middle school campus or ensuring our operating budget remains low. Like all of you, I've known and been affected by the rising costs of inflation. To this end, it's been my priority to be fiscally responsible while supporting and advocating for students, teachers, and staff. Because our children spend so much time in our building, I believe it's important to keep our buildings and facilities properly maintained. When I was voted into this position 3 years ago, I knew there would be tough decisions to make, and I voted with my conscience each and every time. While there have been many strides made, with the fallout of the Fremont negotiations has been a crushing blow to the district. I worked tirelessly both with the Sanborn and Fremont boards and administrators, and unfortunately that was the result. I was deeply humbled by the outpouring of support by all of our community members that myself along with the board worked hard, and we left nothing on the table. In the past 3 years, I've supported and assisted the district in creating and implementing our strategic plan which set forth our goals for the year of 2027. It would be my honor to be the voice for our students, teachers, and town through the execution of this plan. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ken.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ken Hamilton. I'm running for school board. And, everything she just said, I agree with. Tough act to follow, Heather.
Sorry.
I started serving last year when Jamie Fitzpatrick left the district. I stepped into his seat. The first so many months of my tenure on the board was really consumed with Fremont. Why am I running again for this seat? I feel now that Fremont is behind us, for better or worse, we can start getting to work on other priorities in the district. I serve on 3 subcommittees: personnel, finance, and facilities. There's a lot of work to do. And I feel, again, because Fremont took up so much of our time, the board's time, and the first, say, 6 months I was on the board, I'm just coming up to speed on all the different things that are going on in the district. Facilities is very interesting. You tour the school, the various facilities. You see, leaking roofs, walk-in freezers that are broken, snow blowers that break, and the balance of the needs of the schools and, of course, the needs of the taxpayers. Those are the 2 things that we have to balance. I'm the one member of the school board who doesn't have kids in the school, so maybe I'm a more independent voice, although one of the reasons I joined when I spoke to Jamie a year ago was what Heather said. We have some of the highest per student costs in the state, and we have some of the lowest outcomes. And I said those 2, that's a square peg in a round hole, Jamie. And as Heather said, the current administration takes it very seriously. They're putting in new curriculum. There's a new English language arts curriculum already put in. Coming up, I think next for us will be a new science curriculum for grades 6 through 12. I'm an engineer myself. That's of great interest to me. I volunteered with Christine to help with that curriculum if I'm elected. So again, I think my 2 minutes are up, but I feel again, I can now start to be more effective after 6 or 7 months on the board and learning all that's going on in the district. I feel like now I can start to contribute at a higher level and like to give it another year.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience? Anybody on Zoom? Nobody on Zoom? Okay.
How you doing? Selectman Bob Marchand.
Hi.
I'm going to preface this with, I know you can't lay out any plans or anything like that about what's about to take place. So this is more about something about both of your ideas and where you might see or what could be the possibilities going forth. I've been doing some studying on what's taking place with Fremont, backing out. Also, there's talk about the student population dropping because a lot of the younger people aren't having kids, period, till they're, excuse me, getting later on in life. So there's a huge transition going on if Fremont doesn't come back. I understand, and I've been told by one of our board members that some of the schools are in repair, they need work. I get that, I understand that. We need to bring up the grades that you're talking about, that you've been with the kids to get them that better education. But what I'd like to know is how you feel about what could be taking place, what's going on, and do you possibly see that maybe some of that tax burden for both Kingston and Newton might be lessened a little bit, and that the school would be willing to possibly not spend all that money so that some of the either of the towns might get a little bit relief from that because of all this inflation that's been taking place?
Do you want me
Thank
to?
you.
So, thank you. So we are very aware as a board, as many of you know, that we worked really hard to keep our operating budget below the default. It was at a 1.84. We foresee that there will be some changes with Fremont leaving, but also based on what we discussed at the deliberate recently, we're actually going to have a little bit more of a windfall in the front. As Fremont leaves out, we're going to be able to charge them a higher tuition rate. We've also made some pretty significant moves as a district. The reorganization was not something that many of us were in agreement with, but looking at what's happened now, we're actually been able to reorg. So we have 6 through 12 at the high school. So we're able to kind of look at how can we streamline things. We do believe that our buildings need work, but we're creating a capital plan. That's part of our strategic plan where we're actually working on creating a capital plan of like, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed. So I think for years, the district ignored our buildings and our buildings fell apart, hence our middle school. So so myself and as the board, I know Ken's on the facility, we're working really hard to be mindful and we're being thoughtful on our money. And I think every year we've given money back to the tax. Since I've been on the board and the 3 or 4 years before that, we've given money back to the town. So we're really trying very hard not to spend our money. We're building our capital costs. We're building our warrant articles. We're asking money for capital. We're asking for special ed. We're asking for things so we can put that money aside for fuel assistance. So if things do come up, we can be more thoughtful and mindful around that.
Another thing that that has happened is, so I think about 70% of the funding comes from the town, and then a certain amount comes from grants, a certain amount comes from the state. I don't know if you're aware, but I think it's called an equity payment from the state to assure equitable outcomes. Because our enrollment dropped, Bob, by 40 students. They do an average pupil per day. There's some crazy state calculation, but Newton's dropped by 40, which means the money coming in from the state into the district went down, which means the town has to pick up the balance. So there's a lot going on and it's very dynamic. There's some things we have control over and there's a lot of things we don't have control over, but the things we do have control over, like Heather said, we're trying to be very fiscally responsible. And again, I joined primarily for that reason. My kids went to public school in Mass. I moved here in 2005. So I've seen my taxes go up and up since 2005, and that's really when I got engaged with Jamie. I said, Jamie, what's going on? When I did a little research, again, on the state Department of Education website, you can find the numbers. Top third in terms of cost per pupil, bottom third in terms of outcome, and that's the real reason I got involved. At least give us an ROI, right? If we're gonna be in the top third in terms of cost per pupil, we should be in the top third in terms of outcomes, in my opinion. So, fiscal responsibility is front and center. I guess you can think of it in terms of legs of a stool too. You cut one out and the stool falls over. We need the funding to provide a good education. You can't have one without the other. It's interesting for me, having not served on a board before. I'm 60 years old. I had never gotten involved, but it's very enlightening to step up for a board. I mean, no one does this for the money, right? You see the inner workings and all the things going on. Again, I don't think about 2 snow blowers dying in a snowstorm, and I don't think about a leaky roof. We think about our day-to-day and our jobs and our family, and you get your tax bill and you gripe about it. But now, having served on the board, it's really enlightening to me. Still fiscal conservative, but also need to balance that with the needs of the teachers. Tom said to me, the superintendent said to me a month or 2 ago, he's afraid of a death spiral. If If we don't fund the district adequately, we can't attract good teachers. If we can't attract good teachers, we can't provide a good education. And that's kind of a death spiral. And I said to him, Tom, the other death spiral is when people look to move, they also look at the property tax burden. So those are the two things we have to balance really, is how to provide that good education and not make the tax burden prohibitive so that we can't attract new homeowners, if you will, and people moving in.
I just wanted to thank you for that, because I feel as though the more information that gets out to the public, the better informed that they are, and sometimes people don't necessarily get all that information that you were able to just display.
Thank
So
you.
thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
On a different topic, but also related to being fiscally conservative, I wanted to ask your views, both of you, on the new taxpayer-funded school that has moved in just a couple of months ago, the new charter school that is there, that is only about a mile away from our existing schools. How are we going to fund it? Should it be there at all? How do you feel about that?
Are you talking about the Seacoast Classical Academy?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. There have been some concerns about it. Their education philosophy is a little unusual, and I just wondered if you knew that, cared about it.
So I was on the negotiating committee to get the Seacoast Classical Academy to be able to rent our space. They were coming to this region whether we agree with it philosophically or not. If we were going to lose students to that school, at least we could get the revenue of them being a part of our district. So that was the way that I kind of was part of that negotiation.
Can we stand to have two schools in competition with one another that close together?
Happens all the time. We have kids going to Spark Academy. We have kids going to a Great Bay Charter. There are so many charter schools in this area, in the Seacoast area alone. They already had people looking to go to them, so we were going to lose students either way. So it was a good way of being able to at least remain some fiscal for our town.
Its education philosophy is based on Hillsdale College, which is a kind of a far-right extremist Christian college, and that's what the model is based on. I was concerned about that a little bit.
The parents' choice to send them. We're not advocating. We are not funding them. They're not part of our SAU. They are their own school. They are just renting space from us, no different than the Seacoast charter school that's already at the middle school campus. We can't choose for parents where they choose to send their kids, and that's their right.
Okay.
In a way, too, it's a win for the district because that building being unused is falling into a state of disrepair. So we're going to get, I think, $75,000 or $78,000 in rent, which goes into our capital fund, which pays for tablets. Kids break their tablets, it pays for new tablets, it pays for other capital needs. Also, they're doing repairs to the building. So if SCA hadn't moved in, that building would have continued to fall into disrepair. So in a way, it's actually a win for the district that SCA moved in there. And as Heather said, I had read Hampton, Hampstead, other places they were looking at. To Heather's point, if I wanted to send my kids to SCA and they were 1 or 2 towns away, I would do it anyways, whether it's in Newton or not. But at least now Newton, it may lose a few families, maybe not, but we do get the revenue, we do get the maintenance in the building, so there's an upside to it as well. Of course, we don't want to lose kids from the district. We already have, as Bob mentioned and I mentioned, we've already lost 40 kids according to the state calc. We don't want to lose more kids, because then obviously the cost per pupil goes up for everybody. But we can't prevent families from sending their kids where they want to send their kids, so at least it's a win from the fiscal side to have SCA here.
Okay, thank you.
On that subject, could you give us an idea of how are these charter schools funded? Where do they get their money from?
They're funded through the state.
So none of our property taxes go to them.
Not directly, indirectly probably.
Indirectly, not directly. Like it's. I don't know how it all works. It's not like that's way above my pay grade.
At the state level, but yeah.
But it's at the state level.
Hi, Mike Conley. You talked earlier a little bit about the return on investment. what was the root cause of the grades going down?
For me, I'm not 100% sure. I joined the board 3 years ago. I was getting involved. I have kids in the district. I do think a lot of things have to do with not being able to hire and retain strong teachers. We've had a mass exodus of teachers in the last 6 years alone. So we're not able to get teachers, or teachers are not able to do. We have interventionists to teach reading and math, but they're too busy teaching classrooms because we can't hire and retain staff.
So what is, not that you have the plan, right? What are your thoughts to retain talented teachers under today's economic stress, right? Everybody wants to lower the taxes. The good teachers are walking out, but we're keeping teachers that can't teach.
And that's why we worked really hard on our new teachers contract. We'll have some more information will be coming out before voting, but we have really created a system with the situation with Fremont, with the bond coming off the high school and some other things. We're going to be able to raise the base pay and increase for retaining new teachers. The union and the school board negotiators worked really hard to be able to raise the scale for the first incoming teachers, like the students coming right out of school. And then, yes, the more seasoned teachers are going to get raises as well, but they're not going to be as high because even the teachers know that we need to retain and get people in.
No, and we are below the surrounding school districts. So to attract, if a school district 10 miles away is paying $5,000 or $10,000 more starting pay for a grade 5 teacher, where are they going to go? Right, they're going to go to the school that has a better compensation package. So the intent of the negotiations was to create a more attractive package to keep the good teachers and attract new talent into the district.
And how long do you think it'll take to see the ROI, so the grades and the tests to go up?
CKLA was just put in last year. That's the new English ELA program. And we're thinking 3 years. So, a child who's in 3rd grade now, by 6th grade, we should be able to see the impact of the new program. I've spoken to Christine about it. It's an exciting program. The administration's really excited about it. The way it's taught. And you asked why did scores go down? That precedes me. I'm sure that's been going on for years. But speaking to Christine, who's the director of curriculum, some of the programs that were put in were clearly not effective. Just the way they teach reading, the way they teach English language arts was not effective. So there's new CKLA. I forget the numbers, but 2.7 million students across the country are currently in some form of CKLA program. They're seeing great results. Rochester, Manchester, some other surrounding communities have gone with CKLA, and they're seeing really, really exceptional results. Rochester, I think, didn't have the greatest school systems a few years ago, but now I think I've heard 80% of their kids are proficient, something like that, which is outstanding.
Yep.
And we hope to see, I think, if you go on you can double check me. You can go on the state website, and they have all sorts of reports you can download and read. And I think we're around 40% proficient in English language arts. I said to Jamie again when he recruited me for the board, I'd like to see that above 80. I mean, I want to see the majority of our kids at or above grade level. That's what I'd like to see from the district. And the CKLA program, we're hopeful. Again, 3 years from now, we'll have some metrics to be able to tell, but we're hopeful that program makes a difference. And again, science, grade 6 through 12. I learned we don't really have a science program right now, a structured science program in the schools. So that's something that we're going to begin to work on. And again, that's why I'm sitting here tonight. I'd like to be a part of that. I'm an engineer. Math and science are my passion since I was young. And I told Christine I'd love to be involved in that, developing that new science curriculum.
Yeah, we did not have an aligned curriculum for years. It was, with the competency-based teachers, they taught subjects, but it was not aligned. We are now aligning from elementary school all the way up to high school. There are rubrics, there's systems, and then from 6 through 12 it's related. So really, we've worked really hard as a board and in a district to really align our curriculum and have strong rubrics so everyone is teaching the same thing. So if you get if your kid's in third grade and my kid's in third grade, they're still learning the same things, and it's not based on the teacher, it's based on the curriculum. And it also supports the teachers because they know what they need to teach. They don't have to kind of recreate the wheel, so to speak.
Thank you.
Yep, the other thing we're doing as a district is a lot of training is going in for the teachers. There's some trainers here right now who I think it's like managing classroom behavior kind of thing, but there's all sorts of targeted trainings that the teachers are getting. They're getting training. So as the district puts in a new curriculum like CKLA, the teachers are getting an abundance of training on implementing the new program. So investing in the teachers and investing in, in the curriculum are important. I don't want to misspeak, but I believe it has cost the cost-payers nothing for the new curriculum because it was through grant money.
It was through, I think, ESSER funds.
Yep, so it's through grant money. So all this investment that's gone into the district for the ELA curriculum hasn't cost the taxpayers a penny because it was through grant money. And that's another source of funding. We have, people constantly writing grants, requests for grants. And the CKLA in large part was paid through by grants.
I believe Aspire was as well, the math curriculum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How are we doing?
Good evening. Thank you for coming. Joe Simone, Selectman in Newton.
Morning.
Question, I know this turned into a little bit of an informational thing, which is
That's
kind of
okay.
great. But the question I have is I heard there will probably be about 350 students coming to this new school. I don't know if that's the right number, but that's the number I've been hearing. But
I'm not sure.
be that as it might be, the question I have is how is this going to, logistically, how is this going to impact the traffic down there in the morning with already you got a school coming and going, two schools coming and going?
They're going to have scattered start times, so they've already said that the start times would be scattered. They would start after our memorial. They'll get out after. They'll have their own transportation. So there's already, I don't know how many students. I feel like 350 is a higher number than what I remember. So I feel like 350 is a little bit more than what we originally.
Yeah, I was curious as to how this will impact our public safety in terms of, what do we, is the town going to be responsible for not public safety, but traffic control and stuff like that? And I was wondering if that's the case, is the district willing to subsidize the town for any of that added manpower?
I do not want to speak out of turn. I would suggest if you're concerned, I would call Superintendent Ambrose.
Is that something you guys can put out there to, to figure out? Because that would impact budgets and everything down the road. And I'd like to know that.
Okay.
And I know that there have been studies. It's not proceeding without the involvement of public safety officials. I know that, and I think there's some enhancements to the driveway and parking spaces and things like that. I don't know the details, like Heather said.
But what I'm primarily concerned with, though, is the traffic congestion, because on a good day, there's a lot of congestion down there anyway. There's a lot of traffic that goes through there in the morning. And has our police department been involved in this?
Yes.
Yep.
They have.
Well, I know, well, again, I don't want to speak out of turn, best to call the superintendent, but I know they've looked at, looked at traffic, looked at parking, looked at turnaround spots, so there have been studies done in there.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? Anybody on Zoom?
No hands.
Okay, go ahead, come on up.
Hey there. Thanks again for running for school board. I know it's a lot of work. Having served on the school board from Newton for 2 terms almost, and also I'm currently on the school budget committee, I think you should probably emphasize the fact that the SAT scores are what people see on Zillow, or they're looking for, test scores as a metric of success for our students. But we've definitely broadened the definition to include success on the armed services battery of tests that students often take, or earning a trade certificate, or completing dual enrollment courses at colleges while in high school. All of those metrics are very strong for our students, and the reality is many of them just don't take the SAT seriously. So perhaps you can devise some way to incentivize them to take those tests more seriously as part of their learning schedule. I'm not sure how that would be done, but they're doing very well on many measures, and we should be proud of them. So thank you so much.
I agree 100%. We have a good trade program. We have, like you said, it's like an exchange program with Northern Essex for kids who want to take classes at Northern Essex. So there's a lot more going on than just the SATs.
Yep, I agree with you.
Yep.
Thank you so much for running.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? No? Seeing none? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I think we have 3 people running for the select board, and I believe 2 of you are here. So why don't you 2 come up? Have a seat.
Have the middle seat again.
All right. Guys know what to do. And if you could introduce yourselves.
I'll start, Mike Conley. I'm a current selectman here in Newton, been in town, purchased the house in 2009, 9. I started out on the zoning board of appeals before becoming a selectman, so I've been in some way, shape, form working with the town for about a decade. Oh, my real job, I'm in energy, so if you want to know about your prices at the gas station or at the house, I can help you out there.
How you doing? I'm Anthony Joseph Aiello. I go by Joe Aiello for a lot of people. I've been in Newton since 2017. Currently, I'm on the supervisor checklist. I got appointed back in October. I think it was October, maybe November. I have the Christmas light show. Some people know I'm going to do that next year. I had to skip this year. I don't think my mic's were. Oh, there it goes.
You have to go close to him, sorry.
Yeah. I'm an electrician. I've been with the same company for about 18 years. So I've been here since 2017. I don't have any plans on leaving. I might move from where I am, but I don't plan on leaving the town. So hopefully if I don't get this position, I'll do something else, but I'm not going anywhere. So I'm going to stay part of the town for a while in any way I can.
I knew this was coming.
Oh, look, he's got the whole list. There's only 2 of us running. There's only 2 spots.
I know. And unfortunately, Charlie's not here, because I had a question for him too. Joe, I'll start with you. You've been here at numerous meetings, following what has been changing and hearing about the town's needs and/or wants. How are you prepared to serve on the board, and what are your qualities that you are ready to bring to the table?
Well, I don't know how I'm going to prepare to help the board. I don't know how the board works behind the scenes. I've never been a part of it. I'd like to be a part of it. I have ideas. I think, people bouncing around ideas, gets things moving. I don't know that there's any particular way. I'm just like, I'm going to do this. I don't have I just want to be a part. I want to, do whatever I can, however I can. That's really it.
All right, thanks, Joe. Mike, there's been a lot of turnover in the town in different departments. How have you and the board been dealing with it, and how do you see the town's transition going?
Well, when I first came to the board, there was transition, right? So from at the time, the current town administrator to an interim, we hired somebody to here short term. That didn't work out, so we have a current interim town administrator that's been with us for quite some time that has helped give direction to the town, has helped the department heads. He comes with a lot of horsepower. So I think he's been able to streamline in the transitioning of of the town hall, with all the department heads, and getting us the information we need. We, I think, so in that category, I see that going very strong and will help the town over the next 3 to 5 years. We took the resignation of our chief of police recently. In his vacancy, we have an interim police chief who's done a great job, really understanding, getting in there, understanding some of the things that are needed. We're actively looking for somebody that's going to help us. In that transition, we need to get Kalia back. We lost Kalia. That's very important to our police department. So I see that transitioning going very well and needs to continue to get the right person in charge. And then we need to continue in our transition to think about the capital fund and the things that we need long term. I think if you were at any of the sessions recently, you've also heard in transition, we're getting creative with the road agent. He's looking for ways, if you heard, he's 17 years behind in getting the roads fixed. That's quite a long period of time, right? So in a sidebar conversation with him, if we had, all the money in the world and we started to do it, it would still take several years just to get caught up. But the rate he's going at 17 years, every year he goes and does more and more fails. So that 17 years is 20 something, maybe 30 years out. So he's got a good plan. He knows what he's doing. He's trying to do the right thing in transitioning, and eventually the town's going to need a highway department. Because let's face it, God forbid something happens to Mike Bavaro, right? That our town's hurting. He also wants to bring, it's in the warrants, another employee on safety. He thinks of safety, and that's important for the town too, right? We have a town employee out on the roads as often as he is without anybody else. So he thinks safety. We need that. We need that. We as a town are starting to transition and catch back up to where we need to be, and I think we're going in the right direction. It's not going to happen overnight. I think it's still a 5 or 6 years out, right? We're not trying to push it too hard. If you push it too hard, taxes go up, it'll fail, right? But I think all the things that we're doing, little bits and pieces at a time, are starting to fall in place, and you can see that. Not everybody sits and sees the stuff behind the scenes, but if you really pay attention to what we've talked about, what we've done, over the next 3 to 6 years, you're going to start to see a lot of changes in the town, and not big changes, but system changes, the way we budget, stronger budgets, all kinds of things are being looked at right now. So in my eyes, it's slow, but anything is slow is when you're trying to change. So I think it's going in the right direction.
And you're running because you want to be part of that.
I do.
And I'm just going to correct the one thing that you did say so that the townspeople have the correct information. There was already one position, it was a part-time position on the, for the road agent. The board simply made that a full-time position because Mike was unable to find anybody to work part-time.
Right.
So we felt it better if we made it a full-time position, and it might be more viable to be able to fill that position. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Sandra Estabrook. My question is about town administrator. Do you feel that's a supporting position to you, or you support the town administrator? Like you said, there's some new ideas coming. Is that coming from that position, or does it come from like selectmen's board? Where does that come from?
So the creative ideas actually come from the different department heads through the town administrator to us. They come from him. He has a wealth of knowledge. He comes from a very strong background. So it comes from the ideas come from multiple people, but he's very good at getting his arms around everything and funneling it to us organized.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, so my turn. Welcome.
Oh, you can be both? You can facilitate and then drill us? All right.
Yes, so, the warrant, right, there were like, I think, 21 or 22 of them, right?
Yep.
In here are a lot of ask to, money to come from the unassigned fund balance.
Oh, you have to go to the microphone.
So, Mike, oh, you can't? Sorry.
You gotta
It's good
speak
when
a
they
little
say
louder.
that. Yeah, this is good. They're going back on you now. Good.
Yeah.
So,
Please stand closer to the table so people at home can see.
oh, oh gee, lucky them. All right. Fine. So here's my look. There you go. So we have all this, we have this money that you're asking for to come out of the unassigned fund balance. So the unassigned fund balance, for those that don't know, is money that we have, but we haven't assigned anything to it to spend it on. So my question to you is, let's say somebody out there wanted to say, hey, I want my money back. I don't want to put it into these. They could vote no, but what would be your suggestion, or how would you try to convince them that that money should be going into these funds that you're requesting? So I'm going to start out with Joe, though.
Okay. I looked at all these warrant articles with the unassigned fund balance that was going to fill the warrant article. At first, I was unsure of it because I thought the same, that money actually could go back in towards the default budget or the town budget to offset taxes. But essentially, it's doing the same thing. It's going into the warrant articles that you would essentially would have the fire equipment fund or the police equipment. We were going to probably fund those anyways with raising taxes. So by taking the money from that account and doing that, we've essentially given the taxpayers back their money. You know, they could have all said no on all the warrant articles and when they vote, but historically that hasn't happened. So this, as far as I'm concerned, I do think that this was a good step as to giving the money back to the taxpayers. Maybe not as a, a check in the mail, but it did come across as being this way.
Same type of theory, right? So if things are needed in the town, when we sat back, if I go back to some of the conversations, it was, do we try to bake it into the budget and give a clear line item so that you voted on the budget? And if that fails, well, then it comes out. Or do we take a look at stuff that we seriously need, dip into the rainy day fund so that we're not increasing taxes to get things done that are needed for the town, right? When the board talked, we were very conscious about the economic times, the increase in prices that have already gone up. We all see it, our electric bills, our groceries, and everything else, right? But at the same time, we knew we had a responsibility to get some things passed and done. And we thought by line iteming them out in the warrants and showing you the town, not just you in the room, but the town, what we were looking to do, why we were doing it, and the costs, it would be up to them to vote yes or no, and it wouldn't have as much of an impact on the overall budget. So if you don't think that that's where we should spend the money, I hope you do, then certain things just won't get done.
Could you comment on the effect of if the warrant article for the ambulance fails, what the effect of that will be?
So, this is, So you've got a contract with a company that has told us that they will not, if take all the towns that are in this, if one town pulls out, we're all hosed, right? So there's a financial impact. According to the chief and Chairman Marchand, who's been sitting in on those negotiations, there is a good chance that we are going to be on our own, footing a huge bill and getting nothing for it. So if you understand the way it works, our current emergency folks show up at the scene. they do what they have to do to secure whoever's injured, hurt, whatever it is. But without the ability to transport, because we don't have as many people on as we need, we allow somebody else to show up and transport. What that does is it leaves the town with 100% of the cost and no way to get money back. The company that transports gets the Medicaid, Medicare, the insurance. So by doing what we're trying to do, the impact will be offset by some of the Medicaid, Medicare, and insurance. And we don't have an exact dollar because we can't match that. You can kind of build a model and make some estimates. So the whole purpose, I think, to answer your question, Roger, is to make sure that, one, we have a responsibility to the town to make sure that we can show up and respond. And then two, if financially, if we had to go with the options that are in front of us, we could probably do it for our own and spend just as much money, but then recoup on the back end the financials through Medicaid, Medicare, and insurance. So without doing anything, we then become at the mercy of an outside vendor. Does that answer your question?
A piece of it.
Okay.
But my real question is, if the warrant article fails, so that you don't have the funds to bring on additional emergency staff.
Yep.
What is the effect on the people in Newton going to be?
The physical effect could be,
Right.
the truth is that we may lose people. Right, if you can't respond, there's only so many resources this town currently has. Right, the other thing you can do, there's a cost to this. We could say contract time and we have to go and get private, but that is a huge financial burden to the town. And the way that we're talking to these folks right now to support us, yes, you have mutual aid, and I want to not mix this up, right? So something happens, Amesbury supports Newton, Newton supports Amesbury, not so much, Amesbury usually supports us. There's that surrounding towns, but there's only so much of that. The private sector comes in, and they're the ones that get the cash. So at the end of the day, how does it affect us? I think the response the chief gave is one that when he was up here during the deliberative, took the ambulance 20 to 25 minutes to get there. What is that going to do to somebody? And we, look, including myself, I'm hitting that elderly stage. We have a high population of elderly in this town, and we need to think about what that really means. That's the bottom line. The impact can also mean life and death. I don't know if you want to comment.
I don't really know much about the whole contract part, but he did say 7 minutes, 6 to 7 minute response time from in-house versus the 20 to 25 minutes private.
Does that also require special licensing to operate the ambulance? Does that require additional licensing for our emergency?
For our folks?
Yeah. So if we do get an ambulance, who's going to drive it? Does it require additional licensing?
Yes. Yeah, we have, the chief could talk to that, but it's the EMTs and the firemen that have been trained properly to have the licenses.
Okay.
And that's all part of his operating budget.
Is that covered in the warrant, or is that just for the vehicle itself? Like, is there, again,
The train-
so currently, I mean, we don't have an ambulance, but they are currently.
We have an ambulance.
We do have an ambulance, yeah.
Yeah, we have it.
Okay,
But at night, we have a private company that supports.
okay,
We're looking to do it 100% on our own,
I got you. So
Yep.
it's just the overnight hours that we rely on.
predominantly.
What's that?
Predominantly.
Okay.
So in answer to your question, it does include wages, training, and maintaining the equipment in the warrant article.
That was my question.
Oh, sorry, yes.
All right, anybody else have anything? Anybody? Sorry. Anybody else have any questions for them? Do you have one? Okay. All right. Okay, then. Thank you again. And appreciate it. Okay, everybody have a great night. Be safe driving.
Thank you.